Hey guys, welcome to the Dynamite Engagement Strategies by me, Casey Schulte. Here is the bit.ly for our presentation today, so you can have access to that, as well as the QR code for accessing this presentation. I will say before we get started that I have a note taker as well that goes with. This presentation so you can take notes and reflect kind of on your learning if you are interested in that. The link is also in the backpack, so you have access to that as well. So definitely check out that note taker. It has some more note taking strategies that I use in my classroom for my kids to be able to reflect on their own learning, including a 3-2-1. And that note taker looks something like this. So we do a triangle, circle, and square. We're going to do a sketch and tell reflection. And we also complete a 3-2-1. So if this is how you take notes, this is definitely right up your alley. You can save and you can print that, or you can type right into that. Totally up to you, whatever fits your learning style. But that is linked in the backpack as well. But let's get started with our Dino-myte engagement strategies for today. I still believe in Twitter. So if you find anything that you have questions about or that you are using in your classroom, I would love if you would tweet at me. It absolutely makes my day when I hear from educators. So that is my Twitter. Before we get started, this is where we align to our new digital learning competencies. So for educators, this applies for the learner, designer, and facilitator. Competencies for educational leaders, this is a system designer. As far as content standards, I am a high school biology teacher. The standards that will apply today, I'm going to use my high school biology standards. However, any of the strategies that we're using today can fit in any content area, any age group. They are very, very, very versatile. So, again, I'm sticking with biology just because that's my bread and butter. But social studies works, art works, anything from kindergarten to high school to adult learners, all of the strategies that I'm giving you here today, you can use in any classroom. A little bit about me, so you know from where I'm coming from my lens. I am a 24-25 Keenan Fellow. I'm also the 2023 Birds Welcome Fund Northeast Regional Teacher of the Year. I'm a mom to two amazing little boys. I'm Noah, who is 7, and Henry, who actually just turned 5, both who attend public school in North Carolina. I also want to say I am a product of public school in North Carolina. I grew up in Bath, North Carolina. I went to college at NC State, where I was a double major in biology and science education, and also earned a master's degree in science education from NC State. This is my 13th year of teaching. I've taught mostly high school biology, but I have had a little bit of experience in middle school. And that top picture there, you can see all of my former K-8 teachers on my naming day for the Northeast Regional Toy. All of those teachers came that day. And I think it just goes to show you that the power that you have as an educator. So I always include this picture because every single one of those people up there had a hand in making me the educator that I am today. So I would be remiss not to mention them and thank them for everything that they do. Okay, the first thing that we were going to do if this was in person, I love incorporating dice into my classroom. Since we're going with Dino-myte engagement strategies, what better way to get to know your neighbor, to find out some things about them? So, what I'm going to ask that you do, if we were in class or if you were here in my session, is for you to introduce yourself to your neighbor, tell them who you are, where you're from, and then I want you to roll the dice that's at your table. Um, so if you roll a 1, you're going to answer the question, what is your favorite dinosaur and why? If you roll a 2, if you could have any animal as a pet, what would it be and why? A 3, what was your favorite subject in high school? 4, if you weren't a rock star educator, your dream job would be. So do you want to be a cruise director? Do you want to be a shepherd? Do you want to make pizzas? Totally up to you. If you roll a 5, if you were a fruit or vegetable, what would you be and why? If you are a 6, if you were a crayon, what color would you be and why? So in class, obviously, I would give you some time to do this. And I always tell the kiddos, if there's a question that you don't like, just roll again, right? So if you don't want to tell me that if you were a fruit or vegetable, you would be a potato, right? Like you're just anti fruit and vegetables, you hate them, blah, 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 and you rolled a 5, roll a different number, okay? So I would give you some time to do this in class. Um, Now, for the sake of the video, I'm not going to sit and pretend that you rolled a dice. But let's talk about how you can use dice in your classroom really super quickly. I love to use dice for transition activities. Also, you can use them for SEL moments in your classroom. Pair this with some content questions, and then you're on your way to building a really good culture in your classroom. Because what I have figured out is that I am not the only person in my classroom who's responsible for building culture, right? The kids in my classroom also are responsible for building the culture. So it's important that we learn from each other and we not only build relationships with the educators that are in the room, but we take time to build relationships with each other. So silly little questions like this helps build those relationships in the classroom. Also, if you're not, you don't want to do an SEL moment, you can make these content level questions. So maybe we're reviewing um, shapes or angles or these are each different math problems, totally up to you. You can have your kids work them. I do tell them when I make this a content level question that if they don't know the answer, they have to ask their partner. If their partner doesn't know the answer, they have to turn to their table mates. If their table mates don't know the answer, it's immediate hand raised to me, and I come by and can explain that question for them. So it's instant feedback to me where I might need to go back and reteach something. So that's again how you can use dice in your classroom. You can get dice, big, nice foam dice at the $1.25 tree. There's also tons of apps that will that you can use as well for virtual dice if that dice sound kind of triggers you. Definitely pull up your dice the first time you use them, but that's how you can use dice in your classroom. All right, today, congratulations. We've already made it through the introduction, but we're getting ready to have a dynamic time digging up some new strategies to try in your classroom. So we'll go through some Jurassic Spark, so some ways to ignite student learning in your classroom. We'll do Jurassic Jolts, so another strategy that I use in my classroom. That makes teaching a walk in the park. And then at the end, if there's a little bit of time, we'll go through some T-Rexcellent teaching strategies. I will say once I get to that point in the presentation, if you watch this with me in person, I'm normally pretty speedy by then. So that's just some extra takeaways that I'm giving you to take back to your classroom. All right, Jurassic Spark. So engineering fun in your classroom. All right. Um, What I'm going to ask that you do, I love Play-Doh. If you sat in my session last year, I talked about how you can use Play-Doh in your classroom. We're going to kind of mix that up a little bit. I've kind of leveled up how I use it in vocabulary. So last year in my session, I gave you guys a word like democracy, and I asked you to build something that represents that word, right? Um, Now, on the table in front of you, you have a stack of vocabulary cards. I'm going to ask that you pull one of those cards from the stack, but do not show your partner what those words are. Don't show anybody. That's your vocabulary word. It's a secret. Don't tell anybody. Okay? So look at your word and you're going to build that word. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to build that vocabulary word. Now, obviously, for the sake of this video, I'm not actually going to give you 2 minutes. Also, for the sake of this video, if you were looking at what these vocabulary words are, um, they are my content words that I use in my classroom. Again, I teach biology, so the words that people would be using are going to be those biology words. So they might have something like mitochondria or chloroplast or consumer or producer, predator, prey. Um, but anyways, you're responsible for building that word. Now, here's the thing. I have different levels of these cards. When my kiddos are first learning these words, I might have the word, a definition, and an example. But as we move on through the unit, it's going to just be the word, right? So I'm leveling it for them. Um, Also, if there's a kiddo who I know like needs a little bit of help with vocabulary, I can easily just throw in one of those leveled, tiered vocabulary cards, and nobody else knows. I can just make sure that they get that specific card. Anyways, you give people 2 minutes to build their vocabulary word. All right. And then what I'm going to ask that you do, um, you are going to pass your creation to your shoulder partner. Now, do not tell them what the word is. Excuse me. All right, so you're going to pass your Play-Doh to the next person. All right, don't tell them what your original word is. Okay, now on the board, you will see a list of the vocabulary words for this unit. And in front of you, you will see the creation that your partner has made. So from this list, you have to decide which word they are trying to depict. Okay, now you have 1 minute to add on to their sculpture. Okay, so if you think that they have created predator, all right, you're going to add to their sculpture. All right, so I'm going to give you 1 minute to add to their original creation. Now, for the sake of time, we're not actually going to do this. But after you've added back or added to the creation, you're going to pass it back to the original owner. So now in front of you, you should have your original creation of Play-Doh plus the addition from your partner. Now, what I want you to do in your team or pods of 4 is I want you to go around and tell each other what you thought the other person built based on the list of words that we have. So you think that they built predator or prey and tell them why. Then once you've done that, I want you to tell each other what your original word was, okay? And tell them why you built it the way you did. So at your tables, I would give you about 4 minutes to have these conversations. So what did you originally build? Why did you build it that way? And then what did you add on to it? Maybe you guys didn't see the same thing, but what did you see? And how did you see it that way? So I want you to explain your reasoning. And it's okay if you guys didn't guess the same word. All right? As long as you're explaining that reasoning. All right, so here would be some time after we've had time to talk through with our partners about what we've built and why we've chosen to represent our vocabulary words that way. One of my favorite ways to reflect in our classroom is a triangle, circle, square. So triangle, what are 3 ways you can use Play-Doh or manipulatives like Play-Doh or Legos in your classroom? Circle, what thoughts do you have still circling around in your mind? And square, what are you squared away with? What do you feel good about? So I would be giving you some time to reflect and be writing down on those reflections using our triangle, circle, and square protocol. All right, now we're going to do a little bit of a Jurassic jolt. I love to gamify my classroom. I love for kiddos to be having tons and tons and tons and tons of fun. The more fun that they have, the more engaged they're into the content, they are learning that content. And that's how we get them to cross that finish line, right? That's how we get them to tackle tough content. So with Capture the Flag, this is one of the ways that I like to do that. So you're going to take that same old boring worksheet that you always done. All right. You're going to split your class into different groups or teams. I find it best if they can play in groups of 3 or 4. Each team, once you've got them into teams, each team is going to start with 10 flags. Okay, so you might give them 2 pink flags, 2 blue flags, 2 green flags, and 2 red flags. All right. So here in one of my pictures up here to the right, you can see on the board, I've put the flags for the teams. Okay. Um, Now, what the goal is for the team is each of them has a copy of the worksheet. All right, that same old boring worksheet that you've always done. But they are working together to answer these questions. And then they have to send me a representative up to me, the teacher, and I will check their answers. Now, as a team, they can decide, hey, do we want to go question by question and then check, or do we want to answer a couple of questions and then come up to Miss Schulte and get her to check the answers? That's totally up to them. Now, here's the thing. I only give the kids 2 times to answer a question correctly. So they come to me the first time it's wrong, I'll send them back. Um, when a team gets a question right, they have the opportunity to steal a flag from another team. So, like you see, the student here, she has gone to team two and she's taking it from team two and she's going to put it um, to her table. Okay, so she was on Nick's team today. So she's going to move it back over here to Nick's. She gets to choose which flag she wants to steal. She gets to choose which team she steals it from. But that's only if they get a correct answer. Okay, what happens if they get a question wrong? I will send them back and they have the chance to work on and fix that answer. Once they've missed it twice, they are no longer eligible to get a flag for that question. So I'll just exit out. And again, that's instant feedback for me that, hey, I need to go back and reteach this to them. Now, you can give them as much time as you want depending on how many questions you have. This worksheet here in front of them, they have about 20 questions. So it's pretty quick. It's pretty rapid fire. It's that same old boring worksheet that I was always going to do. We did this for this particular activity. We did it as a warm up. So they were doing these questions as warm up, but they're playing the games, right? And they love it and they get so competitive. Now, here's the thing. With the flags, each of the flags has a certain point value. So I decide before the game what each point value for each flag is, and I don't tell the kids. So they're just randomly pulling flags and moving it to their team. So some of them might be worth positive points, some of them might be worth negative points. Totally up to me. I do write it down beforehand because you always have those kiddos who are like, Schulte, did you really make the oranges -10? Yes, I did, right? So they accuse me of cheating sometimes for them too. But again, you're using that same old boring worksheet that you were always going to do. Now, here, if you were doing this with me in person, we would actually take the time to play capture the flag. And I hate that we can't do that. To hear together online. But if you are online and you're watching and you want the capture the flag template, just send me an email. I will say the only time consuming part about this is actually cutting out all of the individual flags. That does take some time and laminating them. But once you've done that, it's done. It's good to go. I also took the time to put little magnetic strips on the back of mine so they'll stick to my blackboard here. But make it work for you. Now at this time, we're going to do our sketch and tell reflections. A sketch and tell is a protocol that you can get kiddos to reflect on their learning. So here in the sketch part, you ask them to sketch like a quick picture. It doesn't have to be a Picasso of one takeaway or strategy that they could use in their classroom. And then the tell part is you have them write down one takeaway or strategy that you could use in your classroom. So the sketch piece, and then maybe jot yourself down a little note like, hey, I would need little magnets to do this. Or, hey, I really like capture the flag or this Play-Doh piece. This is how I want to use in my classroom. But I would give you some time to do a sketch and tell. Sketch and tell is a great way really quickly to see if your kiddos, for me, again, I'm very content vocab focused. So I might ask them to sketch a producer, right? And then tell me what a producer is. Give me an example. Sketch a symbiotic relationship, right? Give me an example. Um, Again, here's another example of a sketch and tell. Sketch and tell protocols. It's just another little broken down for you here. All right. Some T-Rexcellent teaching strategies to add a little fossil fuel for your classroom. So hopefully in the in-person activity, we are going to have time to play both bluff and behind enemy lines. So with behind enemy lines, what you do is you split your class into even teams. Each team has their own table or base, and then each team plays with their own colored army men. Okay, so I have like blue, I have purple, I have green, I have pink. You put them into teams. Um, and then you tell the class, hey, we're going to play this for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Totally up to you. However many questions you give them, the more questions you give them, obviously it will take more time. But you take that same old boring worksheet that you're already going to do, similar to capture the flag, except they've got a few options. So teammates are going to take turns answering the questions on the worksheet. Um, and they're not allowed to help each other. So they're going to go one person at a time. And then they have it checked by me. If they get it wrong, then the teammates can help explain the problem to their teammate and then have the answer rechecked. However, that teammate has to come up and explain to me why their original answer was wrong. So they can't just say, oh, the right answer is now B. No, the correct answer is B because, and my answer of C was wrong because. So there has to be some type of explanation here. If they do not do that, I do not give them the credit. For every correct answer that they identify on the worksheet, they can place 2 army men on another team's table. So if I'm on the blue team and I get it right the first time, I can take 2 of my blue guys and put them on 2 other people's table, or I can take both of them and put them on the same table. Um, or I can choose to return one enemy soldier to the original base. So if I'm at the blue table and there's a green man there, I may not want him there. Okay, so I'm going to return him back to green. The whole goal is to, there's 2 ways that you can win. The team with the least number of enemies at their table. Um, so if I'm at blue and there's only blue, congratulations, I've won. Or if I have the most number of soldiers behind enemy lines. So maybe I've attacked the green table and I've attacked the purple table, and I have more soldiers than they do. So so I can win in that way too. So in this case, you can have lots of different ways that kids can win per se, but they're doing the same old boring questions that we were going to do anyways, right? I haven't had to make up something grand, crazy idea. All I needed was army men. If you don't have army men, you can play with stickers, you can play with paper clips, however you want to play, but that's how you play behind enemy lines. How you can set it up for class, again, you'll need to split them into teams. You can make physical army men or cutouts. Again, make sure you stipulate the time, but make the game work for you and your students, right? So like this can be that same old boring math worksheet that I've always was going to do. Right, those same old set of practice problems. Also, very quickly, when I take up their papers, I can see where are we missing? Okay, what standards do I need to go back and hit again? And the kids love it, right? It's fun, it's easy. I can play for 10 minutes, I can play for 30, whatever, however many questions that we have, they love it. Another game that we play in our classroom is Bluff. So how to play Bluff, again, split your class into evenly sized groups. Um, each student should write their name on a piece of paper or on a popsicle stick to save time. I pre-write everybody's names on popsicle sticks for that class. Then I ask a review question to the entire team. Now, here's one of the rules. They cannot talk, okay? They cannot talk, all right? To each other, they cannot look at each other. If they talk, they are ineligible to answer the question. So ask a question of the entire team. Students have the option to stand or sit, okay? So I say, okay, if you think you know it, stand up. If you don't know it, you don't feel comfortable with your answer, you can stay seated. All right, so I will count the number of students standing and announce that number. So I might say team 1 has 7 people standing or 3 people standing, however many people are standing, right? So let's say they had 3 people standing. Okay, so from the team 1 pile, I pull out a popsicle stick, okay? And I ask for that student's to answer the question. If that student answers correctly, that team will be awarded the number of points for every team member standing. If they answer incorrectly, that question will be posed to another team for the original amount of standing points. If that team gets it correct, they get that number of points. So, for example, let's say team one, I have three people standing. They get it right, they would get the 3 points. If they get it wrong, I'll turn to team two or team three or team four. They still pose the original question. If they get it right, they get the original 3 points. Now, here's the thing, it's called bluff. So you can take a chance that your name is not called from the popsicle stick. Now, here's the other thing, I do put the popsicle sticks back in so everybody has an equal chance of being called per each round. But again, same old boring questions that I was always going to play. It's bluff. The kids love it. They love competition. They love competing, whether it's for stickers or maybe an extra credit point or a piece of candy. I mean, whatever works for you and your students. Um, Now, this is a time where I would give you a chance to take 2 to 3 minutes and really reflect on the strategies that I've presented you here today. Obviously, you're online. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email address is cschulte@beaufort.k12.nc.us. Again, you can reach out to me on Twitter at cnlouie. Have fun with this. Make this work for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I am here for you. Thank you so much for attending the virtual NC Bold. I hope to see you in person, especially if you're in the Northeast. If you are, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your summer.